Hello and what's up, guys? This is Zachariah Grace here, owner and operator of Online Reiki Academy. And in this free mini course, we're going to be talking about chakra archetypes. So, chakra archetypes has to do with how chakras influence our behavior when they are in balance or out of balance. So, let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so the root chakra. The root chakra is associated with physical security, and our earliest experiences, including the extent to which our basic needs were met as children or not met, are recorded and stored in the root chakra, like a message on a magnetic tape. And whether we're conscious of it or not, our emotional security comes from a sense of belonging to a group. This fundamental aspect of our psychological well-being relates to the root chakra. So tribal power may not seem to apply to today's lifestyle, right? But when we shop for provisions rather than relying on the group to hunt or gather, that's kind of like the world we live in now, right? We don't really live in tribal times anymore where there was the hunters and the gatherers and each person that played their role within the tribe. But most of us can acknowledge the good feelings that come from being part of a family or having shared interests with friends or being a member of a club, right? And when we explore this concept of the tribe or the mass mind, we can see how many of our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, and behaviors stem from fitting in or not fitting in with certain groups. And we may not consciously be aware of how much, such as being fed by our mother as a baby, how much we really rely on other people. You know, obviously when we're very young children, we rely very heavily on our parents, especially the mom in the first few years of life. And psychologists say that babies fed on demand learn to trust that their needs will be met. It's like they're getting this download when they're being fed on demand that like, oh, I'm worthy of having my needs met, right? And if this is reinforced, these individuals go through life expecting the same and are rarely disappointed. But babies left to cry learn to distrust and expect disappointments, believing that they do not deserve their needs to be met. And cry it out was a very popular method for a lot of parents. You know, when you're a new parent and your baby's just crying and you don't know what's wrong, a lot of parents would just say, just let them cry it out. Just let them cry it out. They'll be fine. But what this does is it teaches the child on a very basic level to distrust and expect disappointments in life. So, and because of that, this can affect how they conduct relationships later on in life. So the archetypes associated with the root chakra are the Earth Mother and the victim. And they represent two sides of the same coin, right? The positive face and our darker side. And dysfunctional victims are increasingly commonplace in our society as people look for others to blame for their problems. And if you feel you're a victim, you allow yourself to become vulnerable, needy, and hence ungrounded, because you regard every disappointment, separation, or loss as something that you cannot control or change. Subconsciously, you may still consider yourself to be the baby who can't get up and feed itself and so has to rely on others. Only by recognizing that you have the power to provide everything you need for yourself can you reframe your experiences into opportunities for self-sufficiency, strength, and emotional wholeness. Changing this negative archetype involves taking personal responsibility for your life, acknowledging that you have choices and deserve the best that life has to offer. Conversely, the functional side of this archetype is the Earth Mother, universally associated with nourishment, caring, and unconditional love. And by recognizing the Earth Mother within you, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, you acknowledge that you are capable of providing all the physical and emotional security that you need for yourself by yourself. And you can begin to develop this ability in a practical way by attending to your inner child's needs, So each one of us has this aspect of us, regardless of what age we are, that is our inner child. So even as adults, we have this inner child inside of us. And if we're not taking care of our inner child's needs, that can often develop into root chakra imbalance. Okay, so you got to meet your inner child's needs by keeping your home environment safe and comforting, by treating yourself in a motherly way from time to time, and affirming that there is nothing you cannot accomplish, either single-handedly or by asking others for help. So again, for root chakra, the two archetypes are the victim, which is the dysfunctional face of the root chakra, and the earth mother, which is the functional face of root chakra. So victims let themselves become vulnerable, needy, and ungrounded. They feel that they cannot exert influence, affect change, or take control of situations. The earth mother, this archetype is associated with nourishment, with caring, and unconditional love, attending to one's inner child by mothering oneself and keeping safe and comforted. That's what nurtures the positive face of this archetype. Next, we have the sacral chakra. So the sacral chakra further develops the themes of the root chakra, of personal responsibility and self-expression. Its archetypes are the sovereign and the martyr, which are involved with our attitudes concerning abundance and how much we believe that we deserve to enjoy life. And these two associations represent the polarities of pleasure and fulfillment, and suffering and sacrifice. Martyrs are less likely than victims to blame external influences for what they perceive as a life of suffering, but they share a similar belief that they don't deserve anything better. Martyrdom involves being entrenched in a pit of self-pity with no motivation to shift the negative attitudes contributing to the situation. So martyrs' lives are steeped in a sense of lack, which underpins a justification for not changing beliefs and behaviors, because there's just not enough good fortune in the world to go around. And they have to draw the short straw, essentially. So that's kind of how a sacral chakra imbalance can present, is as the martyr, where there's just not enough good fortune for us, and we'd rather sacrifice our own happiness in order to make others happy. So is that something that you resonate with? So the martyrs, they whine and complain, but then never take any action. Theirs is a passive acceptance of life rather than the active desire to change and develop. And without a proper regard for personal needs and desires, mothers very often develop into martyrs. The mother is always doing for her children and never has enough to give back to herself, right? And so sometimes this can actually stem from sacral chakra imbalance. Now the positive side of this coin is the sovereign, the archetype of those who allow the good things of life to be part of their everyday experiences. Sovereigns are magnetic personalities whom everyone enjoys being with, in contrast with the guilt-inducing martyrs. These individuals do not necessarily live charmed lives. It's simply that when confronted with a challenging situation, they see the positive opportunities for growth and development. They are content to take the rough with the smooth, and the knowledge that life is all about shades of light and dark, positives and negatives, good and bad. They know that winter always turns into spring. Their more developed inner world gives them permission to rejoice in their own achievements. Nurturing their own desires is a high priority for the sovereigns of this world. To them, life is bountiful, and they, as much as anyone else, deserve a share in the beauty and rewards that surround them, including sexual fulfillment. So sex to them is something to be celebrated and enjoyed, rather than being a sinful activity, a view that many Western cultures seem to espouse. In taking a creative approach to their sexuality, sovereigns achieve fulfillment in this important area of their lives. Because they're always on the lookout for the benefits rather than disadvantages, they tend to find that that's exactly what life offers to them. So again, we have the sovereign and the martyr for the sacral chakra. The sovereign is the positive face of the sacral chakra, and these individuals are not necessarily any luckier than anyone else, but when presented with a landscape, they will hone in on the flowers, the blades of grass, and the butterflies, rather than the litter, the dog mess, and the ants. And the martyrs revel in self-pity. They are the poor me's of society. They make what they regard as sacrifices for others that are rarely appreciated or even acknowledged. Next, we have the solar plexus chakra. So while the two first chakras have been concerned with our external relationships, the root chakra with the group mind and the sacral with specific relationships, the solar plexus chakra is more internally focused to our relationship with ourselves. And the ways in which we demonstrate our self-esteem and personal power is played out in the archetypes associated with this chakra, which is the drudge and the spiritual warrior. So the drudge is not as dysfunctional as the victim and martyr of the first two chakras, but it continues the themes of lack of acknowledgement and reward. Drudges hand over their responsibility for their happiness by their submissiveness and dependence on others. They commonly regard being lovable only in terms of what they do and not who they are. So they unconsciously look for relationships that reinforce that view. Hence, the drudge archetype can become involved with bullying, dominant partners who are often violent and abusive, or work colleagues whose self-importance is fueled by self-effacing, easily manipulated drudge. And unfortunately, the outside approval that drudges desperately seek is not forthcoming, because this only happens when we learn to honor and value ourselves. Their inner chant of "I am not worthy" needs to be erased in order for a true sense of self-worth to find its voice. So oftentimes, for people that have a solar plexus chakra imbalance, there's this limiting belief that's carried that says, "I am not worthy." And in direct contrast, the spiritual warrior archetype is the hero, who operates instinctively in their interactions with others and always from a position of equality. The solar plexus chakra is associated with the digestive system, and when we ignore, reject, or suppress our psychic sensitivity, this can lead to blockages in this area, resulting in excess weight around the middle, digestive problems, and stomach ulcers. By meeting constant rejection or conflict, the spiritual warriors of myth and legend were forced to look inside themselves to make sense of those sets of circumstances and give them some sort of meaning, right? And it's a truly powerful archetype when a spiritual philosophy of growth and development through facing life's obstacles is combined with acting with integrity, no matter how unpopular or inexplicable to others those actions may be. The attributes of this functional archetype are the precursors to the power of love that is connected with the next chakra on our journey, which is the heart. Because only by truly loving and honoring ourselves can we hope to act out of love and compassion towards others. So again, the two archetypes for the solar plexus chakra are the spiritual warrior and the drudge. The spiritual warrior, the power of the spiritual warriors lies in inner strength, tempered by a belief that guidance comes from a divine force. This strength becomes honed and refined through facing and overcoming external challenges. Whereas the drudge, a drudge mentality, depends on others for recognition and approval, investing everyone else with qualities and power that they wish they owned themselves, and indeed do own, if only they could acknowledge that. So solar plexus chakra also has to do with like our personal power. So somebody that has an open and balanced solar plexus chakra will feel very connected to their inner strength, their inner power, regardless of whatever external challenges might present. Whereas the drudge is always looking for approval from others and puts power into other people. Oh, that person has power, but not me. You know, when really all along they do have it, they just don't feel that they're worthy of their power. Next, we have the heart chakra. And the heart chakra further develops the internal focus that started with the lower chakras and is concerned with balancing the love of others and the love of ourselves. This central chakra is the passage through which we move from the lower to the higher centers, shifting us from the realm of basic needs into the realm of blessings. Our challenge is to pass the tests of unconditional love, compassion, and forgiveness with which we're challenged daily in order to move on to the higher centers. And we tend to think of the heart as only concerned with soft, irrational feelings. We prefer to put greater emphasis on head activity, yet when allowed to, the heart can be a far more accurate barometer of deeper needs. Listening to the heart in matters of love is vital to maintaining healthy, mutually respectful relationships. And as we make our journey towards the higher self and relationships and things of that nature are painfully there to expose us to how little we love ourselves. Oftentimes it's very easy for us to love others, but very difficult for us to love ourselves. And as we make our journey towards the higher self, our relationships painfully expose us to how little we actually do love ourselves. And when we strip away the thin veneer that covers lack of self-intimacy, and we fill it energetically with joy, peace, and self-acceptance, we start to build a solid foundation upon which unconditional love flourishes. And those who dismiss or shun intimacy demonstrate their fear of looking inward. They neglect the opportunities that relationships offer for self-knowledge, acknowledging and loving our dark side as well as the part that we admire. This is the basis of unconditional love, being able to love the shadow side as much as our positive qualities. Take a little water break here. All right. So the negative archetype associated with the heart chakra is the performer. And such people mask personal wounds by playing at being in love, a very different experience to truly loving someone. And their way is theatrical, cerebral activity without putting heart and soul into the relationship. True lovers, on the other hand, have the capacity to love themselves unconditionally because they don't need other people to buoy them up. They freely open their hearts and share self-acceptance with others. These generous, free-spirited individuals offer themselves wholeheartedly to others because they know that the core of their being is secure. In being in touch with their emotions, they take a lighter approach to relationships. In the certain knowledge that the forgiveness and compassion, which their dysfunctional counterparts look to others to provide, they know that it's available to them internally at any time. So the two archetypes for the heart. The lover. Lovers are magnetic, radiant individuals who truly own themselves. They're easily recognizable because it is impossible not to be affected by their positive energy. And then we have the performer, the shadow side of the chakra. A common example of this personality is the codependent, who looks outside for the love they crave, kidding themselves that their wounds can be healed by finding someone else to draw strength from. However, fear of betrayal, one of the emotional dysfunctions of the heart chakra, sabotages any chance of real happiness with another. The next time you meet someone who appears to be having trouble expressing themselves, see if their chin is held down on the chest, hiding the throat area in a childlike manner. This shows that this person is vulnerable in the throat chakra. And such people have frequently to clear the throat because esoterically it is being choked by the truths that they're having to swallow. And they may speak up in an unexpected, dull, monotonous tone. And they may attempt to contribute to group discussions, but because of inarticulateness or lack of enthusiasm, they are frequently not heard by others. And these are all clues to a dysfunctional throat chakra. In its extreme form, the negative archetype associated with the throat chakra is the masked self. And here we have someone incapable of openly and honestly expressing feelings. They may wish to refuse an unreasonable or reasonable request, but say yes anyways. They're the yes people, right? and anger and frustration then builds up inside, further blocking the throat chakra, which may manifest itself physically as a sore throat, or glandular fever, or a stiff neck, and thyroid problems. The silence is not of lack of communication, but of lack of truthful expression, authentic expression of their truth. By contrast, communicators walk their talk. They often have wonderful speaking voices, which others delight in listening to, and may have chosen jobs in the areas of public speaking, of teaching, broadcasting, personal development training, and various therapies. So that's not to say that all who work in these fields are true communicators, but the ones who excel undoubtedly do so because they express themselves with amazing clarity and purpose. And it is the congruence that listeners sense between their self-expression and the sincerity of the inner self that makes communicators so compelling. Both spoken and written words are uttered in a considered way and are hardly ever peppered with profanities or things of a impure nature. Communicators recognize their right to express their hurt or anger, but they do so in such a way that it doesn't diminish the other person. So people with an open throat chakra are able to express what's wrong with them, they're able to communicate, but they don't do it in a way that comes from this triggered place of trying to protect themselves. It comes from a place of authentic expression. And they integrate both the heart and the mind into their communications with others. They also recognize the power of the spoken and written word, and by taking responsibility for their feelings, do not abuse those things. So the two chakra archetypes for throat chakra are the communicator and the masked self. The communicator, having worked through their lower chakras and achieved the compassion required of the heart, communicators know that if others don't hear what they have to say, this is not because of them. It's not because of their communicative abilities, but merely demonstrates that the recipient is not yet at a stage when they can take on board what is being said. Whereas the masked self, sometimes the masked self appears as a clown, right? Someone who is always laughing, making jokes, and taking an unrealistically positive view on any situation. Kind of think back to school, the class clown. It's interesting to know that the class clown can actually be because of an imbalance in the throat chakra. And in reality, what's happening is they're putting on a mask of comedy in an attempt to hide the tragedy of feeling that no one loves or will listen to them. So typically that's what's underlying the class clown behavior. Next we have the third eye chakra. So the rationalist is the dysfunctional archetype of the third eye chakra. This dysfunctional archetype allows the left brain dominance, usually because of the fear and insecurity that we feel at dismantling the safe world in which we become cocooned and constricted. But in reality, rationalists are not simply people who take a scientific view of everything. This group also embraces controllers and perfectionists, those who cannot accept the human failings of others and are simply hard on themselves. Similarly, the functional archetype of this chakra is the psychic, which doesn't just refer to those people who use their powers in a professional sense, but anyone who trusts that the answers to life's challenges lie within themselves. And having been awakened to the need to listen by developing the throat chakra, psychics now listen to their inner self. They recognize that the wisdom of the third eye chakra is like a whisper that cannot be heard unless the cacophony of everyday life is stilled, unless the noise and the chaos of daily life is stilled. Hence, they recognize the need for meditation and contemplation in order for their creativity and intuition to shine through. So we have the psychic and the rationalist for the third eye chakra. These are the two chakra archetypes. The psychic, having honed their skills, psychics often become exceptional artists, healers, and therapists. They know the difference between theory and practice, that the truly gifted individual is one who doesn't just live by the book, but trusts their instincts to supply them with unique and telling insights. Whereas the rationalist, having chosen not to trust their feelings, insights, and inner wisdom, perhaps because these aspects of themselves were ridiculed in childhood. Maybe they had those psychic abilities, but then the adults or the people in their life told them that was silly or dumb or stupid, and they shut that ability down. Well, rationalists force themselves to abide by a set of rules that become increasingly limiting and isolationist. All right, on to the crown chakra. Success and spirituality are not mutually exclusive. However, when the former is sought at the expense of the latter, the resulting imbalanced states illustrates the difference between the positive and negative archetypes of the crown chakra, which are the guru and the egocentric. So a common expression of the egocentric is, I make my own luck. And because of their total focus on the material world and the illusion of their control over it, egocentrics have no awareness of, nor relationship with, the divine. These control junkies regard themselves as wholly responsible for all the benefits they accrue in their life. And indeed, their psychological well-being largely depends on material success, since egocentrics identify themselves solely in terms of what they do, and not who they are. The problem is that they're so busy focusing on their destination that they neglect to enjoy the journey, and their tendency to workaholism often leaves them lonely and unfulfilled at the deepest level. The egocentric worldview is mechanistic in that they have no time for anything that cannot be explained logically, and hence they fail to draw benefit from all that is mysterious and inexplicable in life. And it's sometimes only late in life when the trappings of success, particularly status at work, have been stripped from them through retirement or redundancy, or their health suffers because of their relentless good living lifestyle. When this happens, egocentrics are forced to confront their spiritual bankruptcy. Whereas the title of the guru is no longer applicable only to a mystic sitting on a mountaintop meditating life away, right? That used to be thought of like the guru, that's what the guru is. But the guru is really like the positive manifestation of what happens when your crown chakra is operating. And I believe that this state is equally achievable by those who make worldly success, by those whose worldly success is as great as that of the egocentric. Okay? So, however, gurus take an expansive view of their world's situation, and they may focus on specific attainable goals, but they know that there are infinite possibilities, more than the human mind alone can fathom, through which these goals might be realized. And therefore, they are open to and embrace the unexpected, the serendipitous, the coincidental. Unlike the arrogant, self-centered egocentric, gurus accept how little they know and trust that their connection to their higher self will always provide the right answer or pathway. A crisis point in midlife occurs when a deep longing for meaning and purpose fails to be alleviated by material success. The cry, "Is that it? Is this all my life is about?" is common for egocentrics, and traumatic experiences may find them floundering. Why does sheer willpower no longer serve? It is only then that the egocentric can learn the lesson which the guru has already long embraced, the surrender to divine will, or a detachment from outcomes. Okay, so for crown chakra, the two archetypes are the guru and the egocentric. The guru, this archetype in many respects, holds the key to living successfully on this earth, and the acceptance of personal limitations and the awareness that all things are possible. And the egocentric, self-determination and tight control over their own lives make egocentrics value materialism, only to find, when this is no longer meaningful, that they lack the inner resources to get more from life. All right, guys. So those are the 7 chakra archetypes and the positive and negative face of each one. So, knowing this, I hope that it gives you some awareness of what chakras may be imbalanced for you, or help you to have awareness of what chakras might be imbalanced for clients that you work with or people in your life. And I encourage you not to just call people out, like, unless there's like an open communication and they're receptive to like hearing feedback. When you learn this sort of thing, it can be easy to call other people out and be like, oh, your throat chakra's imbalanced. You're acting like the class clown. But it's more just about having awareness for yourself. When you have the awareness of these chakra archetypes, it helps you to know what you need to do in order to bring those into balance. And one of the most powerful tools that I have found and work with in order to balance the chakra system is Reiki. And for those of you that don't know, I run an online coaching program called Online Reiki Academy, which is a 90-day coaching program that trains you in Reiki level 1 and 2, and also helps you to start and grow a profitable Reiki business. So, if any of you are interested in learning how to use the power of Reiki for self-healing, for learning how to heal others, for balancing the chakras, for manifesting, honestly, there's so many different amazing things that you can do with Reiki, and I share it all inside of my signature 90-day coaching program, Online Reiki Academy. So if that's something that you're interested in exploring, go ahead and send me a message and we can connect on a call and just talk about your specific goals and how Online Reiki Academy can help you get there. All right, guys, that is it for this video. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.